Hey everyone, welcome back to Screen Review. My name is Megan.
And I'm Dina, and don't forget, as always, make sure to follow our Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Boca Tribune.
Today we're going to be talking about a movie, Lady Bird. It was released in 2017. It's rated R, and it is an hour and 35 minutes. So as always, we're going to go ahead, give our general thoughts of the movie, and then dive into kind of plot points we'd like to discuss. So Dina, what did you think of the movie?
Overall, it is a good movie. It has won many awards. I don't know specifically, just I always hear it on those Oscars, somewhere there. And I will say that I do love those types of movies that are kind of just like periods of people's lives and like drama and such. If you watched our Marriage Story video long ago, I love when like movies are kind of just like a period in someone's life and it's drama. So I guess like that's one of the things that really drawed me to it. It kind of shows like these relationships between like our main character and the people around her, which is like very emotional in a sense. I really liked it. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I'm probably maybe going to be a little bit more critical than you were. It was a good movie. It was entertaining. It was funnier than I expected, but also, of course, like with any movie, it's not completely funny. There were some kind of more sad points to it. I will just kind of chalk it up to being a coming of age teenage type story. It was good in its execution of it. It wasn't particularly different though, I would say, then I could kind of get what they were going for in other movies. Not to say that it wasn't good or I didn't enjoy it, just that I don't know, how unique it was in nature. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do agree, especially considering it won or was nominated for so many awards. It didn't feel like it should have been nominated for so many awards.
And I'm sure a lot of you are going to disagree with that, but that's just kind of our perception of it is, just kind of our opinions on it. So in general, like, do I think that this movie is good? Yes. Do I recommend it? Sure. Again, do I think it's worth all of the awards that it won? Maybe not so much.
Yeah.
But regardless, so those are our kind of general thoughts of the movie. So again, we're going to jump into more spoiler type topics now. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, go ahead, watch the movie, come back. We'll be on YouTube. We'll be on the Facebook page, everything like that. So I guess kind of starting out plot points. Dina, do you want to take us to the beginning of the movie?
Yeah, so we start off this movie with this mom and daughter cuddling in a bed, kind of, and then afterwards they're in a car. They're listening to Grapes of Wrath on in their
audiobook.
An audiobook, and they're like crying, and then they start to get into this conversation about school. And the daughter, her name is Christine, aka Lady Bird, and the mother, they kind of start to get in this fight where the daughter, as very stereotypical teenage girl in small town, is like, I want to escape and move to New York and whatnot. And so the mother gets in a fight with her saying, we can't afford that and you won't be able to get in. And then the daughter jumps out of the car because she gets so mad. Lady Bird jumps out of the car. Then we see her have a cast on her arm, which is very important, I guess you could say. She complains about how she wants to live through something, and then she gets cast, just like her living through something.
Exactly. I will say, though, that, it's like through this scene, you almost like agree with Lady Bird in the beginning, in a sense. And it's kind of, I feel like, a common theme throughout this entire movie. It's like, I want to believe Lady Bird and I want to kind of agree with her, pursue your dreams, go to New York, do all this stuff. But at the end of the day, I mean, financially it's probably not realistic for her in this sense, and the mother kind of drills that into her head in a sense. But then it's also, I kind of disagree with the mother in a sense, because how are you going to look at your daughter and be like, well, you're too stupid to get in anyways, so not really a concern. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think the whole movie is just kind of like analyzing their relationship of like who is in the right and who is in the wrong. And I feel like in the end, neither of them were wrong and neither of them were right. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And I think that's like kind of a good takeaway from this movie is that, there's no clear person in the right, person in the wrong. Like there's no real moral, you could say, at the end of it. It's just kind of like life is what it is and you just get through it,
Exactly. So. And I will say, you mentioned earlier, like before we started, how you thought that Lady Bird herself was just kind of like this privileged girl. And it's funny because it kind of like set her up to be that way, Her mom tells her about how basically Lady Bird goes to this private very nice Catholic school in Sacramento. The whole movie's she lives in Sacramento. She hates Sacramento. And her mother's like, we put you in this really nice school because your older brother saw someone get knifed in public school, and like we don't want that for you. And then the mother also complains about their daughter being privileged and spoiled, and kind of like they set her up for this like shelteredness, I guess. So it's kind of like she's battling between these two worlds in a way. Although it's like the whole movie, I feel like that's how they set it up to be. If that makes any sense.
No, that makes complete sense. And I actually do agree with you. That it is a good point. Yeah, it's a really good point to say, because she is going to this really nice, prestigious kind of elite Catholic school. Then it's also like, then she comes home to, a house that doesn't look like any of her other classmates' houses. She doesn't have access to anything that they have access to. And, you find it, she compares herself to them as, any teenage girl does, I suppose. You see your classmate driving a really nice car or going home to a really nice house. And you're like, well, why don't I have that? Why can't I go to New York for school? And it's just not, realistic. So I guess that, you are right in that sense, where her mom almost, she was almost set up to become and have this privileged point of view in a sense. So I can see what you're talking about with that. So I guess another other important thing to talk about is, strangely enough, Lady Bird ends up, there's a musical in this movie, which I was surprised to apparently everyone knows that about this movie. I did not know that. But yes, Lady Bird and her best friend Julie decide to try out for the school musical, which is great because, it's an outlet for them. I guess another thing to put on their, college applications. And also the boy that they have a crush on is going to be in the musical, which is a whole...
Naturally.
Yeah, of course. So any coming of age teenage story, there's a boy that everyone likes, and his name is Danny, right? That's his name. So they have a crush on Danny because he performs just a lovely song at the audition. So yeah, they're all excited about it. Julie gets the lead role, and Lady Bird gets, I think, like choir or something. Like, I don't even really think she has any lines. She gets a secondary, if that, kind of role. And so obviously, Lady Bird's a little bit jealous because Julie gets the on-screen time, in a sense, on-screen time with Danny, her crush. And so, I mean, that's not necessarily a rift between them, but it definitely kind of gets brought up later, I guess you could say. So
mostly
then...
Lady Bird's side, though.
Oh, yeah, definitely on Lady Bird's side. Julie's hanging out. Julie was just I loved her. I thought she was a really fun character. Yes, I really like Julie. But regardless, so I guess, I mean, later on you see Lady Bird, and Lady Bird sees Danny in the grocery store and goes up to him immediately. He's like, hey, kind of like teenage girl, very open, I would say. She never has an issue throughout the movie just walking up to guys that she's interested in, just being like, hey, I'm Lady Bird, it's nice to meet you. And it is a thing that she shakes, people's hands as she meets them, which, I mean, everyone mentions that ever meets her. Because, I mean, even meeting people today, I mean, I don't really shake hands with people that I meet for the first time unless in a kind of professional setting. It's not really something that you do, I would say.
Right.
So she introduces herself to this guy, Dan. Yeah, exactly. She introduces herself to this guy, Danny, and tries to adapt herself to his likes. So he mentions Jim Morrison, I believe, and she immediately goes to her brother who works in the grocery store and is like, who's that? Like, who's Jim Morrison?
Yeah.
I just agreed with Danny that Jim Morrison's like so cool with his hair, but I have no idea who that is. So I thought that was funny. And you kind of see this later when Kyle comes in later, and you see Lady Bird also adapt her personality to kind of meet his interests. So I think that's definitely interesting, and I would say a commentary in and of itself. But
for sure, yeah.
I'm getting ahead of myself. If you'd like to take us to the next point.
Yeah, so she kind of like develops this crush on Danny, as we discussed, and they kind of go to rehearsal together, whatever. And then I guess like the next kind of major point is I guess Thanksgiving would be the next major point. They have like this Thanksgiving night, whatever. And her and Danny are officially together. They have like a scene together, whatever. And they go to this on Thanksgiving night, they go to this like band show, which is where we first see Kyle. So Lady Bird is already with Danny, and she kind of makes this eye contact with Kyle, who's like a band, whatever, And
I mean, I can't, like, just the most cliche kind of cringe. I found Kyle to be very cringy, like to watch.
Oh, for sure.
I felt uncomfortable.
That was obviously the point.
I know, but it was so much.
He was just like so like broody but stupid looking. And so so after this Thanksgiving, whatever, her and Danny are still together. We skip ahead to the night of the show. Their whole relationship, she seemed very happy, and Danny was all liked her as far as we knew. Mm-hmm. And we get to the night of their opening night of their theater show. And after their show, they're at a restaurant, and Lady Bird is in line for the bathroom. And there's a really long line, so she decides to go to the men's bathroom. And she finds Danny there with another guy, and she freaks out. And then the next scene is like one of my favorites. It's just her and her best friend Julie just laying in the car crying together. And it was really sad, but also just a kind of funny in a way, because it's a movie, mm-hmm. But you kind of feel bad for Lady Bird in that moment. Like, oh, but then you didn't?
I don't know. I mean, my sister cheered when that happened when we were watching it. Not necessarily because, it was a great thing. Lady Bird just got her heart broken because they were already saying I love you and they had just met, which is fun. But regardless, I mean, it was just, I feel like at that point the movie needed something to happen to kind of make it pick up a little, and this was definitely it. So we were more so excited about that than the movie was, going somewhere else other than okay, Lady Bird and Danny are in love, very cute, and theater, woohoo. It was something else to kind of break up the monotony of the movie, which I appreciated.
Yeah.
It's my opinion. I did like the car scene though; that was funny, and that's the thing. This movie, like I said earlier, surprisingly funnier than I expected it to be.
Yeah, mm-hmm. I would like to go back. I skipped a part before Thanksgiving. They had this school dance, which is which is after that. Lady Bird and her mom got into another fight like they usually do about clothes, and how Lady Bird's mom is we can't afford the nice clothes your friends can afford, blah, blah, blah. And we find out that her dad lost his job that night. So it kind of just put a whole damper on her whole night, because she just got together with Danny, whatever. So you kind of, it was a sucky scene.
It was. So that was a sad scene. I will also mention that the kind of director of the play itself, I mean, he was an interesting character, and I wish they almost focused more on him. I mean, they were doing this kind of method acting scene, I would say. They're all sitting in a circle, and it was just okay, everyone, whoever cries first wins. And then it ends up he breaks down crying uncontrollably, in a sense. It is just, I mean, and you move through the whole thing, and then you find out for the next play he's no longer directing it. I feel I wish they dove a little deeper into his character, because I was really interested to see what he was struggling with, other than rumors they mentioned.
And then you find out that he was at the psych ward, asking for help, kind of, remember?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with the mom.
With the mom, yeah, because Lady Bird's mom works at the psych ward, and she was do you have anyone to turn to for support? And he was what do you mean? And you're just I felt really bad.
I know. Man. I know, he was so nice, and that's the thing that I wish they talked more about him, because I was really interested to see. That was kind of that was the last scene that I think that we had of him, was just him kind of being I don't what do you mean? I don't have a support system. So that was definitely that was sad. I didn't appreciate that. And I mean, of course, they had the typical of any teenage movie. Julie, Lady Bird's best friend, has a super big crush on her math teacher. Of course, you had to throw that in there.
I guess after the night of the show, there was this really cute scene, I will say. It was a Christmas scene, and their family was struggling at the time, so Lady Bird's mom got them all socks, and Lady Bird seemed very happy about it. And so it's so weird to see their relationship. 1 second Lady Bird is grateful for everything that she ever has, and the next she's just kind of oh, I hate my life, which again kind of encapsulates this teenage girl coming of age, I guess. So that was interesting. And then I guess we can go into the coffee shop when we see Kyle again, which is
hooray,
oh, Kyle.
So nice. So yes, Lady Bird has to get this job at a coffee shop, because obviously the family is struggling financially, and she's trying to do her own thing. She's Miss Independence, so good for her. Regardless, and she looks out and she sees Kyle just I don't know, what was he doing, like smoking a cigarette or something, like just being
And,
like
reading some communist
just like
manifesto, like being a
just being the most cliche annoying boy ever.
Yeah.
And so she decides to go up to him and like, hi, like, how are you? And there's like, it's just a whole weird, like, of course, by the book cliche scene where, you know, the manager comes out and is like, oh, Ladybird, I'm not paying you to flirt. And he's like, oh, I wish you were flirting with me. Like, it's just like the cringiest, most basic thing that you can ever kind of talk about or see in a movie is what this scene is. But of course, to like a 17-year-old girl, she's like, oh my goodness, like
Yeah.
he wishes I were flirting with him. So of course, you know, now she has a crush on him. And I think later that night you see her crossing off Danny's name because she writes down, you know, boys' names that she likes on her wall. So she crosses out Danny's name and writes Kyle, which I thought was really funny.
Yeah, that was definitely funny.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess after that, you know, she tries to like kiss up to Kyle and like be with his friends. You know, he's in the popular crowd. There's this girl, Jenna, obviously Jenna, who's like the popular girl at her school, and she's like trying to befriend them all. And so she like pulls this prank with Jenna on like the nun at their school and like writes like just married to Jesus on her car or something like that, which is so out of character for Lady Bird because she likes her teachers. Like she is kind, especially to that nun. She really likes her. So it's very out of character for her. Anyways, then the next scene not the next, but like later, I guess next notable point is very notable actually. Lady Bird's at her job and Danny comes. And he like sits down for a second and then he like runs out and then he meets her out back. Like they meet together out, at the back of the coffee shop. And they're like, I don't even remember what the conversation was, but basically it ended with him saying like, I don't know how to come out to my mom because like obviously they're like Catholic school and, you know, he didn't know if his family was going to be accepting. And he just starts crying with her, which was like such like a sentimental scene. Like it, you know, later in the movie you see that they remain friends, which was like so sweet. So I definitely
that scene. Yeah, that scene was one of the more sad scenes throughout the whole movie. Like that was just, that was sad to watch happen.
For sure.
But no, it is nice that they were able to kind of remain friends and she could, like, they had like a really nice like hug. Like you could tell they genuinely cared about each other in that kind of sense. You know what I mean? So that was nice, I suppose you could say. So then I guess after that, you know, Lady Bird and Kyle are kind of dating now in a sense because I think that they go to a party. Lady Bird goes to Jenna's party, like she's like a house party or something. But of course, like her parents are upstairs and they're fine with it, as every kind of rich, stereotypical popular girl. Like, oh yeah, parents are home. It's fine though. They don't care if you're drunk. Just, you know, be cool about it. So then she goes to hang out with Kyle, and they like. It's clear that they have nothing in common. Like Kyle's weird and it's fine. They have nothing really in common. Lady Bird just, you know, is kind of in love with the idea of Kyle. Like he's different, he's edgy, you know, he's cool. Yeah. And so then they kind of start dating a little bit, but I don't even know if necessarily I'd call it dating. Like they don't seem to talk that much, you know.
Not really. They're just
just teenagers.
Like anyways, the relationship basically ended when she was like at his house one day. They got into a fight and she goes into her mom's car and starts like crying to her mom, which is like also a really sweet scene. Again, you know, later in the movie, there's like this line where Lady Bird is like, do you like me? And then her mom's like, of course I love you. And she goes, okay, but do you like me? The whole movie, there's this theme where she's like, I don't think my mom likes me. And so in that scene, you can kind of see the love part of the relationship where like, no matter what, her mom is like hugging her and is like, yeah. And then they go do their favorite Sunday activity, which is just going out to really nice houses and like open houses and stuff, which is really fun. I've done that before. And it
sounds so fun.
Yeah. So it was just like a really nice scene again to show that like her mother was always still there for her, which was a good thing to take out of it.
So, I mean, at this point, you know, it's kind of been a sort of common themes where Lady Bird wants to go to a college on the East Coast, and it's almost a secret between, I mean, it's not almost a secret, it is a secret between her and her father that they have, to where, you know, the father is helping her fill out the financial aid applications for the East Coast colleges because obviously it's out of their budget. You know, the father lost his job, is struggling financially. So they keep it a secret from the mother because she is adamantly against her even applying or thinking about any New York or East Coast schools. Whereas they wanted her to go to Davis, I think is the name of the college they want her to go to, which is where the father went. You know, it's local, it's close by, it's cheap.
Yeah.
That's what they want her to go. Mm-hmm.
She, I will say, earlier in the movie had a temper tantrum about having to go there, like a literal temper tantrum, like freaked out and did not want to go. It was very dramatic, but
yeah, her character is very dramatic, but I mean, teenage girl, sure.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. But again, you know, she's not the greatest student in the whole world. So obviously, you know, she checks the mail for all these letters because now we're later into the year when I guess you're kind of more or less finding out what schools you're getting into. And she's finding more rejections than anything. But she gets this one wait list kind of letter. And she takes that basically to mean that, like, an acceptance in a sense. She's like, I didn't get flat out rejected. There's hope for me to go to a New York school. So she just gets very excited about that. But obviously, you know, it's a secret. Her mom doesn't know. Only the dad knows. So now I guess we'll talk about prom night, which is just, of course, any coming of age, teenage, high school movie. Prom night's a big deal for these kids.
Very big deal. So she's going to prom with Kyle still, even though they're not together anymore, even though I think in her own mind she kind of moved on from that in a way. And at first you will say, like, she was really excited to go, and as she's walking to the car, you hear the dialogue from the car, and you hear Jenna and her boyfriend or whatever saying, like, I think she's weird, like, she's really weird, which is, like, annoying. And then all of them, they're, like, driving to prom or whatever, and then they decide, let's ditch prom, let's go to, like, a friend's party or whatever. And at first Lady Bird agrees, and then this song plays on the radio that Lady Bird really likes, and then Kyle is like, oh, I hate this song. And so that's, like, I guess was, like, her breaking point where she realized, like, this is not where I'm supposed to be. So she's like, I want to go to prom. Can you guys drop me off at my friend Julie's house? Because keep in mind, her and Julie drifted apart because of Lady Bird's infatuation with the popular crowd at this point. And so this, also one of my favorite scenes, is she goes to Julie's house and Julie's sitting there, like, crying. And she's like, Julie, why are you crying? And she's like, I'm just sad. Like, there's no reason. And then the next scene, you cut to them, like, eating together, and they're, like, laughing at how much they've eaten. And then they're like, let's just go to prom. And it was just, like, a really cute scene, I think. It was, like, one of my favorites. And then you kind of see them at prom, and they're, like, having fun. It was really cute.
It was a really nice scene. So it's nice to see, because we didn't quite touch on it, but I guess we will now, that they did definitely drift apart. They had this huge kind of blowout fight in the middle of school where, you know, Lady Bird is mad at Julie because Julie's mad that Lady Bird is friends with the popular kids. And Julie says, oh, Lady Bird, you know, you can't do anything unless you're the center of attention. So they drift apart in a sense. And that's kind of where Lady Bird falls into the popular crowd more so than before. But now they've rekindled their best friendship over this prom night scene, which was really nice to see, like you said. And another kind of sad point is Julie is going to the community college in Sacramento, or, you know, somewhere near there, I believe. And so then they plan to kind of, you know, hang out all summer because Lady Bird doesn't want to go there, or she's considering it. You know, they just want to hang out all summer and rekindle their friendship. They're very excited for it. But then Julie apparently is not going to be here for the summer because she's going to go stay away with her father, who I think the mom and the dad are divorced. So she's going to spend the summer with her dad. So that was kind of another little, like, like it seems almost like it's hard for anything to kind of clear cut, cleanly work out, we'll say. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and it does suck because you see in the movie that, well, I guess it doesn't for Lady Bird, because you see, like, she works really hard over that summer. She works 2 jobs. She gets her driver's license, presumably, like, so that she can be this Miss Independent in New York. But anyways, after prom, college graduation, her and her family have, like, a grad party, I guess, grad dinner. And Danny comes, and again, this is where you see that her and Danny are on good terms and they're friends, and he comes up to hug her and says hi to her family. And then he mentions the wait list. like out of nowhere, and her mom is there, and then she freaks out and her mom finds out. And this, I think, is one of the saddest part of the movie is her mom just stops talking to her completely the whole summer basically because she's so mad that she didn't tell her and did it behind her back. And it was just like really sad. And like you see at this point, Lady Bird already got in. So you see throughout the summer, Lady Bird's working, she's getting her driver's license, and you cut to her mom on this notepad, like writing stuff. And at first I thought it was like money, like, you know, she was like calculating whatever.
I don't know what I thought it was. I didn't think it was anything. I thought she was calculating bills, like you were saying.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was. So, and then you later find out it was a bunch of letters that she was trying to send to Lady Bird because when she leaves to go to the airport and her dad like stuffs the letters in her suitcase and she finds them later while she's in New York. And I will say the scene when the mom drives them to the airport is also really sad because
it was so sad. I think the mom was being a little selfish though.
Very selfish. I mean, they say that the whole movie, it's like there's no one is in the wrong or in the right, you know?
Yeah.
So
yes. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. You go ahead.
Oh, okay. I was just going to talk about, you know, when they were driving Lady Bird to the airport because she was leaving for New York. So, you know, it's just the mom, Lady Bird, and the dad, and they're all going. And the mom refuses to say goodbye to Lady Bird as she gets out of the car. You know, Lady Bird is like, I'm leaving for college. Would you like to say goodbye? Mom doesn't even, you know, look up, do anything, say anything. So the father walks Lady Bird into the airport to obviously, you know, send her off onto the flight because it is 2002 right now. So they were being very, very, very strict at airports. We'll say.
I think at this point it's 2003, but it was still.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, it was 2002 in the beginning of the movie. Now it's probably 2003. You're right because they did have a New Year's scene. I did forget that. So 2003, regardless. And then you see the mom drive away because she has to do like a loop to pick up the dad again because she's not paying for parking because parking is expensive, which is fair. But fair. Regardless. So like this scene of the mom driving away and doing this loop is really well done. I thought the mom was going to get in a car accident. To be honest, the first time I watched, I was convinced. I was like, it's going to happen. It didn't happen, you know, thank goodness. But I was convinced it was going to happen. So you kind of, the camera flashes between the mom's face and then the landscape she's looking out onto. And, you know, the mom is breaking down and she's starting to cry and you're kind of flipping back and forth. And you see this, like, you know, she's trying to be strong, you know, not talking to Lady Bird, not looking at her, doing anything. And then as soon as she's gone, she just breaks down crying, you know, doing this little loop. And as soon as she, you know, makes the loop and gets out of the car, she, you know, runs into the dad's arms and is just crying. And to me, that was a lot. That was another one of the scenes I thought they did really well. That was really sad.
I definitely, the first time I watched this movie, did sob during that scene. It was really emotional. Yeah, it's a very emotional scene. I think, like
it is for sure. Just for me, for some reason, I don't know. Movies don't really make me cry. I don't.
I get very emotional. So, anyways, now we're in New York. She sees these letters, whatever, and she goes to her first college party, and it didn't end well. I will say she. Someone asked her what her name was, and she said Christine, not Lady Bird. Ooh. And also, the first thing that she asked was, "Do you believe in God?" to like the first person she saw, which I think is kind of funny because I think part of her whole like being sheltered and like wanting to leave home thing is like her relationship with God because she went to a Catholic school. So I think that's interesting. Anyways, first day of the party, she goes to the hospital because she drank too much, of course, you know. And so from that, she leaves the hospital and goes to the church. And so I think it's like this full circle moment because, like, again, she wanted to leave, you know, her home so bad, leave her Catholic school, and then she ends up back in a church, you know what I mean? And then after the church, she calls her mom, which was like a really emotional scene also. Again, the end of this movie just like really got to me. And it's basically this call where she's like, "Mom, when's like the first time you drove through Sacramento? Like, did you cry? Or like, did you like take it, whatever?" And, you know, they kind of have this really pretty scene where they pan between her mom and Lady Bird, like driving, and they go back and forth and them driving through Sacramento, like her hometown. It's very cute. And basically it ends with Lady Bird just saying on the phone, like, "Thank you for everything" to her mom, which was like really heartfelt, I think.
Yeah, I liked the end of the movie. I will say that. I thought they did a really nice job, and I was kind of happy that Christine could now come to this point where she could feel comfortable in herself. She was kind of leaving behind the rebellious phase, we'll say, of her life, which I think is, the moniker Lady Bird, we'll say, was probably her kind of rebellious rejection of family, rejection of like the name that they gave her. Oh, you name me Christine. Oh, well, I'm Lady Bird. I'm unique. I'm different. And so now she's kind of just, so now she's just being like, okay, like, I'm Christine, like, I'm comfortable enough in myself now to where I don't have to, reject my family, reject all these things. I will say though, the name itself, Lady Bird, I try to look things up as to why, Greta Gerwig picked that name, or, why this name was chosen or anything. Couldn't really find anything.
It was just random. Yeah.
So I read like an article where she said, just thought about it. Apparently, in like the Oxford English Dictionary or something, ladybird is another name for ladybug, which is fun.
Yeah, I saw that.
So I couldn't find anything. So if you guys have any ideas, let us know, because I'm curious about that. Other than that, not much to say. I will mention that it was nice that the brother actually ended up, because the whole time he was kind of like couch surfing at the parents' house with his girlfriend. They were like edgy and different. I feel like the whole movie, like, I'm saying edgy and different sarcastically, but that's really how every character felt to me. Just like,
for sure, yeah.
Regardless. So, they both worked at the grocery store together, but by the end of it, he kind of cleaned up his act, and then he got a job, which was almost sad because the dad and the son were up for the same job position, but then the son got it, which is like really nice. The dad is such a good guy.
I loved the dad. He was so sweet.
He was such a good guy, but it broke my heart a little bit because I wanted the dad to get a job and feel happy. Because they mentioned he was depressed in the movie because of the finances and everything were stressing him out. And Lady Bird, made her dad drop her off for school, a block behind, anything like that. So that made him sad. He felt, she was embarrassed of them. It was just a lot of little bummers with the dad, but, he's happy for Lady Bird in the end. It just made me sad.
Yeah, I agree.
So,
but I think that's all that I have.
That's all that I have as well.
Thoughts. Good movie.
Yeah, I was going to say that as well. Good movie overall. Nothing crazy deep or anything to analyze, really. A very pretty movie to look at, I will say. The scene of Danny and Lady Bird kind of dancing in the flowers, the rose garden, whatever. That was cute.
Yeah.
That was pretty. Yeah, that was pretty. That's pretty much all that I have to say. Dina, if you want to mention our social media pages one more time before we head out.
Before we head out, just at Boca Tribune, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And and you can watch us on YouTube and Facebook and IGTV later if you want to rewatch this, watch Lady Bird, watch this again,
Yeah, you totally can. Regardless, we'll be here next week, Tuesday, 7 p.m. We're going to be watching The Founder, so join us back for that. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.